for a happier and healthier married life. Think of the day of your marriage. How excited were you? Rose petals, Banarsi sari, and the Shehnai, and a dream of being happily ever after. Seldom are we told that marriages are beyond the fairy tale we imagine. Marriages are not only about the romance, but also involve mundane household chores, maintaining work-life balance, difficult financial decisions, and managing relationship with in-laws. In short, adjusting to a new life which bring forth unforeseen challenges. While love is undoubtedly one of the strongest bases of a happy marriage, unfortunately it is not enough. Divorces are on the rise, and one of the main causes of divorce is lack of effective communication between the couple. So today, we are going to discuss how to communicate effectively to have a healthier and happier married life. The key to a happy marital life is to balance between positive and negative communication. Think of a regular day. How many times do you complain about the things your spouse had not done correctly? The wet towel not in place, the garbage not disposed, and the list goes on. But what a happy marriage requires is a healthy balance between positive and negative communication. An ideal ratio is 5:1. Now, what does positive communication entail? It is so very important to include appreciation. So the first point that we are going to talk about is appreciation and acknowledgement. We all crave for appreciation. We do so many things for our marriage, but if it is unnoticed, overlooked, and not appreciated, we won't feel like doing it again. It is as if we are doing something in vain. So please don't forget to appreciate your spouse now and then for every little effort that he or she is taking. The second point is spending quality time. Now, when I talk of quality time, it is not about spending a lot of time with each other. We all know that we are busy people. It is difficult to spend a lot of time with each other. But even if you spend 10 minutes with each other, make that 10 minutes count. Make that 10 minutes special. And that is what quality time is all about. I know all of you will have a lot of things to discuss, lot of worries to discuss, lot of difficulties to overcome, and then you want to discuss that with your spouse. Don't do that in your quality time. Do that in something which we call as the problem hour. Keep a time separate for discussing your problems. Let it be 15 minutes or 20 minutes where you will discuss all the problems, but do not mingle that content with the content for your quality time. Now, what does this problem hour entail? It is very, very important that we actively listen out to our spouse. And what does active listening mean? It means that you communicate to your spouse that he or she is being heard. And that we can do through our verbal and non-verbal skills. So for example, when your spouse is talking to you about a hard day she had at work or about something that her boss had done, you have to somewhere ensure that you communicate to her that you are really interested in what she's telling and talking about, and that you can do through various verbal and non-verbal gestures. The non-verbal gestures are typically things like, maintaining eye contact, lean forward a bit, look interested. Don't fiddle with your phone when you're talking to your spouse. Show to her or him that you're interested. Verbal ones mainly include things which you need to be a bit careful about. For example, use I statements more than you statements. Now this I will explain with an example. For example, if you are unhappy with something that your spouse had done, don't start blaming. Don't just say that you had not done it correctly, I was very upset. You say that I would have been happier if you had been a bit more careful about this. It was I who felt bad about this. So always start your statements with I. Do not blame. And let the tone also be very empathetic. Don't have a blaming tone. Please avoid using terms like always. You are always like this. You always do not listen to me. You're always so careless. You are always so aggressive about everything. So these are very extreme terms which sort of defeat the purpose of the particular conversation you're having. And your spouse will also get very defensive and say, no, I don't always do that. How can you tell me that I always do that? That means you do not ever notice the kind of effort that I put into the relationship. So please avoid using terms like always. Also, avoid calling names, labeling, or using degrading words about your spouse or spouse's work or spouse's family. You must understand that even when you're angry, you should not tell something which hurts your spouse. So if you're called that, you're stupid, you have no idea, come from a family which had not taught you certain ways of communication or ways of how to talk correctly, how to do this correctly, that is very demeaning. That ways you're not showing respect to your spouse. Please avoid doing that. Do not label and do not use degrading words about your spouse or spouse's family. Lastly, don't jump to conclusions. Clarify. Now, whenever your spouse is speaking, do not interrupt. First, hear out what he or she is talking about. Then, don't jump into giving a suggestion or concluding something. Stop and ask, what is this about? Why is he or she telling me these things? So for that, one way that you can do it is paraphrase. Paraphrasing has 3 parts. 1, you summarize facts. 2nd, you summarize feelings. And 3rd, you clarify the expectation of your spouse from this conversation. So for example, your spouse told you about a very bad day. First, you summarize whatever you understood from that conversation in terms of facts. So for example, you say that, okay, that means when you went to your manager today, your manager told you that your work was not up to the mark, despite the fact that you have put in a lot of effort. So that is simple paraphrasing of facts. The next step is paraphrase the feelings. So then you say that means what I understood from the conversation is you were very, very hurt, you felt demotivated and also frustrated and angered, and you did not know what to do. What else can you do to improve your work? Finally, you clarify the expectation your spouse has from you based on this conversation. Please remember, your spouse is not always seeking for a solution. Sometimes the spouse is probably just seeking for someone who will listen out to him or her. So please ask politely that, okay, tell me, how can I help you? I can completely understand what you're going through. It is a tough time and I'm there for you. But is there anything specifically that I can help you with? I know it may sound very structured, like we don't talk like this with our spouse. But if you start doing that, that can work like magic. Try and understand why your spouse is telling something to you. Do not intervene or interrupt unnecessarily. Sometimes just being there is all that he or she wants. Don't give a solution if he or she doesn't want it. So please be respectful towards each other and try to understand each other's perspective. Hope these suggestions are helpful to you. So if I just summarize now, all you need to do is appreciate your spouse more, acknowledge the different things that he or she is doing for you, and try to have a meaningful conversation if you are discussing a problem or trying to resolve a conflict. Avoid using terms like always, calling names. Try to use more of I statements. Show your interest and your active listening through non-verbal gestures like leaning forward, maintaining eye contact, and also paraphrase the content, paraphrase the feeling, and clarify what your role or what your expected role is. So, hope this helps and hope you all have a happy and healthy relationship with your spouse. Thank you so much.